And there really are very few companies that can step into that with leading process technology.
Best stocks and the worst in 2021. Hello everyone. Equities were largely on the rise for the remainder of the year, including several technology firm stocks, after taking a huge knock in early 2020 at the onset of the COVID-19 epidemic. The greatest stock price winners and losers in 2021 are shown here. But hey, before going on with our video, hit that subscribe button to watch more videos like this one. Now, let's get going. We start with the 5 biggest winners, counting down to the IT vendor with the biggest stock price gain during the quarter. Then, we list the 5 companies whose stock price declined the most, concluding with the IT vendor with the biggest loss.
And also leverage different architecture. That's why I say the cloud is good for detection.
Best number 1, Fortinet. With its FortiGate Security SD-WAN solution, platform security company Fortinet has been actively moving into the SD-WAN industry. CEO Ken Xie promised in February that within a few years the company will overcome its 2 major SD-WAN competitors and become the market share leader. ShieldX, a cloud and network security firm, was purchased by Fortinet in March. For the entire year of 2020, this follows Fortinet's acquisition of network monitoring technology company Panopta in December. Fortinet announced $2.59 billion in sales, up 20% from $2.16 billion in 2019. The company's net income for the year was $488.5 million, up 47% from $331.7 million the previous year. The gain in Fortinet's stock price increased the company's market worth by over 25%, from $24.11 billion in December 31, 2020 to $30.10 billion on March 31st.
Stadiums, they're using Extreme, either wireless, wired, or analytics.
Best number 2, Extreme Networks. Extreme Networks reported sales of $477.9 million in the first 6 months of fiscal 2021, ending December 31, 2020, down roughly 9% from $523 million in the first 6 months of fiscal 2020. The firm recorded a net loss of $11.9 million in the first half of fiscal 2021, compared to a net loss of $61.3 million the previous year. Extreme Networks' market capitalization increased by approximately 28% to $1.08 billion as of March 31st, up from $847.56 million as of December 31st, 2020.
Government policy setting, especially on the level of security requirement.
Best number 3, BlackBerry. Following the acquisition of cybersecurity firm Cylance in February 2019, BlackBerry has shifted its attention to security and IoT. BlackBerry's revenue for fiscal 2021, which ended February 28th, was $893 million, down 14% from $1.04 billion in fiscal 2020. The firm recorded a $1.1 billion net loss for the year, compared to a loss of $152 million the previous year. BlackBerry's market capitalization increased by approximately 28% to $4.75 billion as of March 31st, up from $3.71 billion as of December 31st, 2020.
What are we really going to do and what are the high priorities, and also what are we not going to do, right? We're surrounded.
Best number 4, Intel. Intel announced on January 13th that Pat Gelsinger, the CEO of VMware, will take over as the company's next CEO on February 15th. His appointment is viewed as a significant step forward in Intel's efforts to restore momentum, particularly in the face of a resurgent rival AMD. Gelsinger took over for Bob Swan, who had been CEO for 2 years. Prior to joining VMware, Gelsinger spent more than 30 years at Intel in a variety of roles. Gelsinger has pledged to make Intel a leader in every product area in which it competes, to execute perfectly, to speed innovation, and to put a strong emphasis on culture in order to recruit the finest engineers and technical talent. Intel announced revenue of $77.87 billion for fiscal 2020, which ended on December 26th, up more than 8% from $71.97 billion in fiscal 2019. This year's net income was $20.9 billion, down 0.7% from $21.05 billion the previous year. Intel reported $19.67 billion in sales for the first quarter of 2021, ending March 27th, down 1% from $19.83 billion in the first quarter of 2020. The quarter's net income was $3.36 billion, down roughly 41% from $5.66 billion a year ago. Intel's market capitalization was $260.63 billion on March 31st, up 27.7% from $204.16 billion on December 31st, 2020.
Offices will be opening. We think that some of the changes we have seen, though, are going to be permanent.
Best number 5, HP Inc. Tolga Kurtoglu, a former Xerox executive, was named HP's new CTO in January. Marie Myers, who had been serving as interim CFO and Chief Transportation Officer since October 2020, was designated Chief Financial Officer in February. HP bought HyperX, Kingston Technologies' gaming subsidiary, in February. HP reported sales of $15.65 billion in the first quarter of fiscal 2021, ending January 31st, up 7% from $14.62 billion in the first quarter of fiscal 2020. The quarter's net earnings was $1.07 billion, up 57.5% from $678 million the previous year. HP's market capitalization was $39.58 billion on March 31st, up 24.8% from $31.71 billion on December 31st, 2020.
I don't think tech spending is going away, and if tech spending is not going away, they're going to need to be secure.
Worst number 1, Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks said in February that it will pay $156 million for Bridgecrew, a provider of solutions for enforcing infrastructure security requirements across the application lifecycle. The purchase was completed on March 2nd. Palo Alto Networks announced sales of $1.02 billion in the second quarter of fiscal 2021, ending January 31st, up roughly 25% from $816.7 million in the second quarter of fiscal 2020. The business recorded a $142.3 million net loss for the quarter, compared to a $73.7 million loss a year before. Palo Alto's network's market capitalization was $31.32 billion on March 31st, down 8.99% from $34.41 billion on December 31st, 2020.
And this requires companies to secure their customers' data. Will a platform such as ours?
Worst number 2, Cloudera. Cloudera reported sales of $226.6 million in the fourth quarter of fiscal 2021, ending January 31st, up 7% from $211.7 million in the fourth quarter of fiscal 2020. The firm recorded a $54.8 million net loss for the quarter, down from a $64.3 million loss a year ago. Cloudera's total revenue for fiscal year 2021 was $869.3 million, up from $794.2 million in fiscal year 2020. In fiscal 2021, the firm lost $162.7 million compared to $336.6 million the previous year. Cloudera's market capitalization was $3.55 billion on March 31st, down 11.08% from $3.99 billion on December 31st, 2020.
We see a lot of upside there. If you think about cloud workloads, and this has been a particular focus for CrowdStrike.
Worst number 3, CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike, a cybersecurity firm, agreed to purchase Humio, a log management startup, for $400 million on February 18th. CrowdStrike's ability to identify risks and vulnerabilities utilizing machine-generated data will be enhanced thanks to the Humio technology. CrowdStrike announced revenue of $264.9 million for the fourth quarter ending January 31st of fiscal 2021, up 74% from $152.1 million in the previous quarter. The firm recorded a loss of $19 million, down from a loss of $28.4 million the previous year. CrowdStrike's overall revenue for fiscal 2021 was $874.4 million, up almost 82% from $481.4 million in fiscal 2020. In fiscal 2021, the business recorded a net loss of $92.6 million, compared to a loss of $141.8 million the previous year.
Signals and power between the stacked chips, supporting more than 2 terabytes per second of bandwidth.
Worst number 2, advanced micro devices. AMD's stock nearly quadrupled in value in 2020, the most of any IT company on CRN's watch list, so investors may have opted to cash in some profits in the first quarter of this year. AMD's new Ryzen and EPYC processors have gained a lot of traction in the previous year. In addition, AMD is nearing completion of its $35 billion acquisition of programmable chip manufacturer Xilinx, which is expected to boost AMD's competitiveness in high-performance computing systems. The purchase deal was authorized by AMD and Xilinx shareholders on April 7th. AMD announced sales of $3.45 billion in the first quarter of 2021, ending March 27th, nearly double the $1.79 billion recorded in the first quarter of 2020. The most recent quarter's net income was $555 million, more than 3 times the $162 million earned the year before. The market capitalization of AMD was $95.09 billion as of March 31st. Worst number 1, FireEye. FireEye announced a $400 million strategic investment led by Blackstone Tactical Opportunities on December 11, 2020, with ClearSky, a cybersecurity-focused investment firm, as a co-investor. In December, FireEye made headlines when it was the first to identify a state-sponsored cyber attack that targeted a number of IT businesses and government organizations in the United States. John Waters was named president and chief operating officer of FireEye on April 7th. FireEye reported sales of $246.3 million in the first quarter of 2021, ending March 31st, up nearly 10% from $224.7 million in the first quarter of 2020. The firm had a $50.6 million net loss for the quarter, down from a $76.3 million loss a year ago. So, folks, how do you like this video? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content. Also, hit the bell icon button so that you'll get a notification whenever we post a new video.